So, folks, Jamaica's corruption perception index score for 2025 remains at 44, showing little movement over the past several years. The country has held this score since 2017, with the only change coming in 2019 when it dipped slightly to 43. So since 2020, the score has returned to 44 and has remained there. We're now joined by Principal Director at National Integrity Action, Dr. Gavin Myers, and Reverend Peter Espeut to discuss what must be done to gain better ratings. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Deacon, good to see you, sir. Let me start with you, Doc. What's the criteria? What's the criteria to decide whether we corrupt or we don't corrupt?
So there's a score, and it says 0 is most corrupt and 100 is least corrupt. Mm-hmm. And let's say 50 is the median. Mm-hmm. So at 44, we're below the median. So we're considered more corrupt than less corrupt.
No, I know that, but I mean, what the criteria they use to decide whether...
So there are six different indices were used in the Jamaica case, but there are 13 different independent indices that are used, and there's an amalgamation and a composite created of that. So different people look at different things. Some things related to economics, some things related to freedom of the press, other things like that. So, and each one of them have a score. So different persons across the world have, with their focus on Jamaica, taken a view that it is that we are not doing things that are right for Jamaica. So it's that we build on. And we can talk about things like our focus on integrity, or focus on transparency, or focus on the protection of the civic space. So that is what we use as the whole.
So 44 and not moving, what does that mean?
It basically says that we're in the doldrums. It means that things are going, but even more, what is worrisome also is that the world also is receding too, because the score for the world has moved backwards to 42, showing that there is a decline in space in terms of we're becoming more corrupt as a world.
Deacon, what is your take on all of this, sir?
Well, I think Transparency International is being very kind to us. If you read the Gleaner editorial this morning, the editor is very clear that there have been some very negative developments in the last year.
Yes.
The discussions in the Joint Select Committee about the Integrity Commission, the corruption in procurement in different government entities, government-related entities. The Gleaner didn't go so far as to saying we don't understand why it has remained the same over the last year. There has to be some counterbalancing factor to counterbalance what I consider to be a slippage. Maybe it's freedom of the press, maybe your program, maybe the fact that the Gleaner persists with critics like me, that will cause the index not to decline. But as our brother says, the rest of the world is in decline. The global average has gone down, whereas we have remained the same. So there's something good happening that causes us not to go down. I don't know what it is. I believe they're being very kind to us. I think the actual score should have gone down, in my view.
Mm-hmm. Why is that, sir?
Because of what I said. The fact that the Prime Minister's statutory declarations cannot be verified, the findings of the Auditor General, the findings of the Integrity Commission indicate that there are problems. And yet the score remains the same. I think TI is being very kind to Jamaica.
Does that mean they're not too certain what's going on in Jamaica?
Well, I don't know. I gather the person on my left might know a little bit about how the score is derived. So maybe he's the one being kind to Jamaica, I don't know. But I do believe that the perception of, remember, no, you can't measure corruption directly because we just don't have the data. So that's why Transparency International is going for the surrogate variable, the perception of corruption. So they ask people questions like, have you bribed any policeman recently over the last year? Have you bribed any politician? Are you aware of any contracts being given to friends or paseros? And if they say yes or no. But I just don't understand why it has remained the same for the last 5 years. It doesn't make sense to me. I think corruption has deepened in the country in the last 5 years.
So it's almost like this. It takes a lot to go up but it takes, and we keep still. And we can talk about it in different ways. We have some solid laws. We have some very solid laws. However, one of the challenges we have is that these laws have not been policed. And even more, there are some things that we need to do more of. For example, there are legislations that we have long promised. Unexplained wealth order, removing the gag clause and the Integral Commission, strengthening the procurement systems, even though we have a very strong system in terms of ensuring that there's people understand it. I'll use this example. The handbook for public procurement was last updated in 2014. Our laws were updated in 2025. So normal civil servants are focused on a handbook that is 10 years behind the law. So things like this are showing that we have work that we have put in, the legislators have put in the work, but translating that into tangible and visible change, it takes work. But it also takes public participation. So we are calling for more people to get involved, to speak to their members of parliament, to speak to their councillors, to speak to other people, but also to demand that administrative sanctions and things like that be put in place. Because it's only when people move, when things can move.
Do you get a sense that people just don't care?
No, people care. People care. The asthmatic child or the parent with the asthmatic child knows that corruption at UHWI impacts upon them. The person in Westmoreland knows, at Betheltown, knows that the bad road that they face or the absence of resources impacts upon them, or garbage collection impacts upon them. So they know. But what it is that the powers that be feel that they can do things because they have this culture that they're protected. No, they're not. And that's what we're trying to say. You're not protected. We need better resources for ourselves.
Yep.
So the index should go down then.
Yep.
This is the point I'm making.
But I want to ask you.
When the Minister of Justice can get up and say he believes that if they ask you, if your wife, her assets, you mustn't answer. That is, the index should go down because of that.
Yeah. Deacon Peter, it is, we have this way, all of us, that we can just say what is wrong and what should, this and everything wrong. How we fix this? Give me some solution.
It has, you see, this is part of the problem. You're asking the politicians to make the laws to monitor the politicians. Do we really expect them? I mean, I expect, the answer to your question is we need to strengthen the laws and we need to police the laws that will catch politicians being corrupt. But maybe that's being too, it's unreasonable expectations. Every time the Integrity Commission makes a finding, or the Auditor General against a politician, they say it's bad mind, or I deny, or I'll do it again, or I broke no law. But you see, this is the next thing. I broke no law, because there's no law against nepotism. There's no law against conflict of interest. There's no law against, I don't even know if breach of the procurement guidelines is against the law.
It is both a law, but also there are administrative sanctions that can be levied against the politicians, but also against the civil servants.
When last has a politician or a civil servant been been prosecuted for breach of corruption of procurement guidelines?
So maybe what we need isn't more laws, is that the laws be policed judiciously.
But why doesn't the index go down then? This is what I'm not understanding.
How do you feel about what Mr. Vaz says, the minister?
That he will do it again?
Well, what he said, you know, I mean,
he says that
desperate
he said
times
it was
called for desperate moves.
Yes,
and
he was wrong.
He was wrong. You see, what he should have done is told the head of the disaster agency to make the request for the Starlink devices. He didn't have to do it himself. He really has no legal authority to do so. And so having done so and then said, I'll do it again, wrong and strong, he has brought disrepute upon himself and upon the government.
Emergency procurement is easy. Emergency procurement by any state organization is quite easy. The 2025 legislation speaks to how easy it is. 1, there's an emergency. 2, we need this. 3, this person has it, and this is a price that we are offered. And because of the emergency exigencies of the situation, we need this to move. And other state agencies have done it consistently. In an example that is easy, let us ask the National Works Agency how they do it when they need to clear a road up in Chester Castle. Ask them. They will need to say the road needs to be opened. So we're saying the minister understands this, but he took it upon himself, and that is incorrect. And I think someone should say to him, Minister, you were incorrect. You may have been acting in the best way.
But the Auditor General said that.
And he still said, I will do it anyway. That is something that he needs to understand is incorrect.
That
And
was
the
draw
minister-
down the index.
So do you okay, so as we wrap up, based on what has happened with this latest incident,
Yes.
it happened before the report came out, right? Or after the report
After
came
report.
out, right?
Yes.
Do you think that when the next report comes out, we will be in the same position or better?
I think
or
there's
worse?
work to be done. I think there's work to be done. I think it is within Jamaica to do things for Jamaicans. So whilst we focus on the CPI, there's work to be done to make Jamaica a safer, better place to meet our Vision 2030 goals and to make sure that our resources are working for us. So whilst I'm focusing on CPI, I am clear that there's things that we need to do for us and that we as the citizens can be a part of that.
Rev?
Well, we don't know what's going to happen over the next year. Who tell if they don't bring amendments to the Integrity Commission Act to defang it even more than they have already. They could bring amendments to make it even more secret, which should definitely bring down the index. We don't know what's going to happen. Mr. Warmington has been put on the Electoral Commission. We don't know what's going to happen. But I must say, Transparency International and probably NIA is being very friendly towards the government. That's my conclusion.
Thanks for coming, sir. Good to see you both, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Principal Director at National Integrity Action, Dr. Gavin Myers, and my family friend, Reverend Peter Espeut. Good to see you, sir. Up next, I'll be finding out what the frequent tremors across the island are telling us, and are we prepared? Stay with us, please. Soon come.